Hello, and welcome to the Freddie Mac Connect Unleashing Your Digital Potential Through Partnership session. All lines are in listen-only mode. This session is being recorded and will be available following the conference. If you have any technical issues, please use the Q&A box and someone will assist you. Lastly, using the handouts icon, you will find links to speaker bios and the presentation deck. During today's session, we will be joining a conversation with Kevin Kaufman, Vice President of Seller Engagement with the Freddie Mac Single Family Division, and Jonas Moe, Senior Vice President of Marketing with ICE Mortgage Technology. With that, I will turn it over to Kevin and Jonas to kick us off. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And hello to everyone out there. It's a pleasure to be with you all. And so as you heard, we have the pleasure to have Jonas Moe from ICE Mortgage Technologies with us. And we just want to start and welcome again, Jonas, and just really excited to have you here and really excited to have the opportunity to have really all of our mutual clients and all of the prospects out on the market to hear about our partnership. I think, as you know, we've been partnered for a long, long time. And as we do, we think it's really important to focus on shared missions, shared opportunities. And I was thinking about it over the weekend, and it was like, as we walk into this session, it was like, I started thinking, it was like, you had somebody in our office last week. You had somebody in our office the week before, 2 weeks before that. We met with senior leadership. And I don't know that this audience is clearly aware of how important our relationship is. And I know we're going to hit on a lot of those topics today, but just, wanted to start off by asking, from your perspective, why do you think the ICE and Freddie Mac collaboration is so successful?
Well, Kevin, first and foremost, thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be here. And I think what you said is true. This partnership goes back quite a long time. I've been in the industry for over 25 years, and this partnership has been at the core of what we want to do together from a technology perspective with what was Ellie Mae and is now ICE. We've been working together for a long time. It comes down to a shared mission. One of the things that I think ties us together is this idea of how can we use technology to better tie the borrower experience together? How can we drive quality? I think there are two types of folks that approach partnerships. One, it's that, well, we're going to meet every couple months. We're going to talk about big, bold ideas, and then we're going to wait, and we're going to meet another 2 months from now. We're going to talk about the same bold ideas. One of the things that's really separated this partnership is the idea of let's roll up our sleeves, let's get down to it, let's solve a problem that's attainable, and let's introduce that to the market. Let's make our lenders better. Let's make the borrower experience better. So one of the things that I like about this partnership is it's not just words, it's actions, that we're going to drive that forward. And I think that's true to your DNA. It's true to the DNA of ICE. Let's get some stuff done. Let's make a difference in the market.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I told the story a couple of times. It was like, I go back in time and, you and I have been in the industry for roughly about the same amount of time. I look back and I see the success that Ellie Mae had, that ICE has. And you always looked and said, what is it that those guys are doing that is unique, that is different, that really is allowing the market to really flock to their platform. And it was obvious. It was kind of what you just said, which was focus on action. And so there's one thing selling a platform, there's another thing helping implement it. And then there's the other piece where it is focusing on the problems and creating a better borrower experience, defining innovative solutions. But when we do it in a way that's really, really thoughtful. And from my perspective, I'll share a little bit here and I'll ask for your perspective. But it's like the number of shared customers we have, the percentage of LPA volume, the entire view of the world that we have is so similar that from my view, taking a look at what Jonas and team bring to the table, it truly is that action in regards to, if we're going to focus on mission, if we're going to focus on an opportunity, how do we set up work groups? And I mentioned that we had folks in the office last week. It was so cool to see. So I wasn't able to be in the sessions the entire time myself, but when you walked in and you saw a room filled with sticky boards, in a room filled with ideas and opportunities. That not because we're trying to figure out all the opportunities, but because we're actually trying to target in on those things that are going to make the biggest difference. And the way I want everybody in our audience to think today is really about, when Freddie Mac, when ICE Mortgage Solutions get together, we are doing it in a way that's focused on your need at that time in this market. And I want to just kind of stay there because the market is one that is really tough to get through. And that's one thing that we talk about a whole lot right now. And I think as we look at it, regardless of the market turn, whether it's high volume and needing innovation to really take you to that next step, or if it's this current market and this environment that we're in, the difference is we're trying to still find a way that's making you profitable. And just, for me, just thinking about how we share customers, the volume, the significance of our relationship, it starts with what Jonas said earlier. And I felt like I had to just kind of take what you mentioned and kind of move on to it a little bit because it is so important to hit on those highlights.
Well, I think also the idea of listening to individual customers, one of the things that I think Freddie does a great job with is, even though you guys have this enormous market share, from just our perspective, we see about 50% of originations going through our platform and about over 1.7 million loans year to date that our lenders are working with Freddie. So you guys represent a huge portion of our business. But the idea of kind of going back and talking to individual customers, I think that's one of the things that you guys do really well as an organization, is even though you have this big market share, the willingness to go out, speak to customers, understand the need, and break down that need at an organizational level, and then make sure that we're looking at the whole ecosystem, that we're doing things that make the most sense. You talked about the session that we had last week at Freddie. And it was the idea of how do we solve a pretty small problem that impacts the whole industry. So taking something that isn't just relying on the market share that we have, but looking at what could it be? What's a problem that we can solve? How can we solve it in a reasonable amount of time and have an impact that benefits the whole ecosystem? So beyond that, I think that there's a couple things that we can focus in on, and that is that whole mortgage ecosystem and what we can do together. And I'd love your perspective. I know that a lot's happened both with volumes. ICE has gone through a pretty significant acquisition in the last quarter or so. How do you look at kind of our partnership and the effects that it has on the mortgage manufacturing process? What do you look at there?
Well, and I'll just start by saying congratulations on that acquisition and that bringing what I would say are probably two of the most powerful platforms together under one roof is extremely important for the industry. I will say when this first happened, I was kind of blown away at the opportunities. You think about the assets that sit in the industry and the difference they can make. I think there's two different views where, folks may have thought about some level of, well, what does this do? Am I going to be as important to ICE, to the Ellie Mae team, to the Black Knight team? Am I going to continue to really matter in that large of an ecosystem? And the coolest part for me was actually hearing the plan. And then you sit and you look at some of the organization and I'll bring up Tim Bowler's name, and Tim's been a breath of fresh air for this industry. That's super cool, right? Like just by somebody, when you think about how we partner, how we get things done, Tim walking in the door and just going, great, now let's go. When can we meet? Can we meet tomorrow? Let's go. Get here fast and let's go find a way to do it and make a difference. That is truly refreshing for this industry. And so by bringing on MSP and bringing on the components of Black Knight that you guys bring on, obviously our portfolio is north of 3 trillion. And when you think of it, just our book of business that we support, that partnership is extremely important on all aspects. And so as important as we thought it was over a period of time, I think that just makes it even stronger and gives us an opportunity to work together to drive towards a different type of industry. And that's the one thing for me. I think if you know me, it's that I've spent 25 years. I've tried to leave for call it half a day. And I went, wait, I'm a mortgage person. And how do I look at this through the lens of, I really want to make a difference? And I'll kind of bring something up where our partnership has really meant so much, which is just around AIM. And I think you talk about digitizing the mortgage entire ecosystem. It's not only just your platform, but it's all the data validation that we do to leverage information direct from the source. And whether that's through partners such as Finicity, partners as Informative Research with their Account Check platform. There's so many others, but I bring it up through the lens of, when you think about partnership and you think about what we've been able to do together, is we actually meet on a regular basis and talk about which platforms make the most amount of sense. Are you invested in any of these new technologies that are coming out? Are they engaging with you? Our objective from Freddie Mac seat is not to create winners in the ecosystem for digital verification solutions, but rather ensure that we're leveraging things that our lenders are leveraging. And that means that they really typically have to have a business plan. And that business plan includes, how do I work with an ICE mortgage technology, and how do I bring those things forward? And you guys have just been an amazing partner in regards to how we sync up, how we target the right opportunities to then bring the right tools to the sellers in a way that's frictionless, right? And that's the piece that I think doesn't get enough attention, is because we do so much. Are we communicating the right way? And I think we're going to hit on some of that a little bit later, but we want to make sure folks actually see the things we're doing. And it's not just a session like this where you and I are talking about it. How do we actually get boots on the ground and get people to make a difference?
Well, I think further to that, this partnership and what we can do with the partnership is only expanded with the data footprint that we now have with the MSP technology, the servicing technology. We can provide greater visibility to Freddie Mac. And you touched on something, the idea of leveraging data and understanding some of the truths of our industry through data, where those friction points are, how can we resolve those friction points? I think the other thing that we can continue to do, and it's an area that I see that we can continue to improve, is the idea of, we've built some cool technology on both sides of the house, making sure that all the lenders that are part of the connected fabric of who we are able to utilize that technology. You mentioned AIM and what you guys have done through partnership with Finicity and Account Check to make the process easier for Encompass lenders to reduce documentation, speed up time to close, just be more efficient and reduce errors. That's a huge opportunity for us. It's a huge opportunity in a tight market. If you can reduce the number of errors in the ecosystem, you can reduce the number of issues related to the manufacturing of a loan. That reduces cost. It makes lenders more efficient, makes them more profitable. That's where we see opportunity. But an area that I think is really important that we should touch on is the idea of affordability and affordability at the consumer level. What do you think we can do moving forward in terms of improving loan quality, advancing the industry as a whole? I think we have an opportunity, and we've had that opportunity. And I love the idea that we meet on a regular basis. And I spend more time in the Freddie office than I do any other place in Washington. But one of the shared missions that I do think we have is connecting more borrowers and making home possible for more borrowers. So what does that mean to you?
So I think first and foremost, it means increasing the pie, right? Increasing opportunities for folks to become homeowners who otherwise haven't. And I think, where we sat down and we have meetings with mutual clients, truly understanding, and you made this connection earlier, which is, how do I originate a loan that is for a first-time home buyer, that is for a buyer who is up against the rails in regards to a risk lens, that is, not an easy cookie cutter application. How do we do something that's different? How do we ensure that loan quality is really going to show up, that it doesn't require, and I'll just say it doesn't require repurchase, doesn't require, a thorough investigation from our QC organization. And I think we've talked about this some and a whole lot, to where the joke is, if you guys can pull off what you're going to work on, You know, one lender said, we'll erect a statue of you guys if you come out. And you find it funny, but it's like, it's a dead serious topic. And I can tell you that some of the things that we've been working on are really trying to make the biggest difference in connecting the two between affordability and then loan quality. And so the last piece of that is the cost to originate, which you mentioned. And so I just want folks who are out here today, how many of you are aware of the ICE Affordable Analytics Report? Like, I really want you to write this down. I want you to sit there and I want you to think about it. I want you to think about whether you're leveraging any of the new features that are identifying affordability for, here's how Freddie Mac Home Possible works in the platform of Encompass. How are you thinking about that entire loan from start to finish from a first-time home buyer? Did we create an opportunity for a borrower who otherwise didn't have an opportunity? And then is that a quality loan that we can sell on the secondary market? And that's what we want to work on together, specifically with ICE, to make a difference. And I think probably if you've heard me talk at all in the past several years, you've heard me talk about the cost to originate study that Freddie Mac put out at the end of 2021. We did a loan quality connection in 2022 that connected the two of these things, and we'll be providing an update to the two of those. And why does it make a difference? And so one thing I want you to think about is, and why we take the partnership so seriously, is we hear the struggles that you have both in a high volume market in regards to quality and opportunity and this current market. And in order to do so, we actually have to find ways that solve the problems of create a better borrower experience, right? You go, why does Freddie Mac care? That's an ICE problem. That's a mortgage lender problem. Because in order for us to be successful and create, more loans, we have to be able to think about it through the lens of the consumer and the lender. And our connection to you with technology is through ICE. And so when we put these studies out and we say that there's a 40% less defect rate by leveraging digital tools, there's loans are originating at $2,300 less per transaction than loans that are not using digital tools. And those are per our last two studies that we put out for total loan quality mindset and the cost to originate. And we have to tell you, they're based upon looking at the profile of information, from a seller who's leveraging at a high clip, leveraging these tools. And so as we start to think about it, and we think about, products and initiatives that we have together, I'll just ask you if you have any additional context to add. And then I wanted to bring us towards, what we can do better. What I want people to think about as well is, what can Freddie Mac and what can ICE do better in communicating these things that we're doing, because that's something we have control over. How do we get it to you in scale? Because where we think we have webinars and we have a big outreach, are they getting to the right individuals? And I want you to, if you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself that question is, am I aware? Do I know about some of these initiatives that ICE and Freddie Mac have on the docket in order to really move things forward? So I don't know if you want to add anything about the quality component on top of it, but welcome it.
Well, quality is something I'm very passionate about, and I think it stems from what we've done from an Ellie Mae perspective and now into an ICE perspective, in terms of making sure that quality and compliance are at the forefront of how we think about the loan manufacturing process. One of the things that you touched on was the idea of understanding kind of the cost of origination. Some of the stuff that Freddie's done there is very introspective. It's looking at kind of how we can make things better overall. We also have done cost of origination studies to try to break down the different components. Digitization is huge. And I know we talk about it as an industry, like we want to move to a more digital experience, but in terms of reducing friction, in terms of reducing errors, digitizing the process is really key. One of the projects that we're working on right now, Kevin, with your team, and I know you're at the forefront of this, is the idea of looking at elements of loan quality and looking at where we might break down from a loan quality perspective, and understanding how we can work together. ICE and Freddie Mac can work together on making sure that loan quality is at not only at the end of the process, but during the process. A lot of the documents that are collected as part of the origination of a loan sit within Encompass. Those documents are digital, they're accessible. One of the projects that we've talked about is just looking at where repurchase is at the highest. Downstream, post-close, when you guys do your post-close analysis, you see where repurchase is the highest. You see what is impacting a lender. And when a loan goes through repurchase, that's a whole different cost center for that lender. It's a whole different disruptive process for a borrower that's already moved on. They're 6 months after they've closed. They thought they're done. And now suddenly their lender is coming back and asking for documentation about loan that they've already closed. And so you sharing that information about where you see repurchase risk, that collaboration starts with us. And so when we look at that and we see, oh, okay, here's where we see the biggest issue of repurchase. And then we're able to track that back to a couple documents that already sit in Encompass. And if we could take those documents and push them to you guys pre-close so that you understand where an issue may arise in the future and identify that earlier for the lender so they can mitigate. That's taking real cost out of the system. It's leveraging technology at the best. It's making things that could be an issue later on go away. If we could do that initiative, this loan quality initiative we're working on right now, there's a huge downstream effect to lenders that costs them nothing, impact their experience, not at all, but provide huge relief downstream. That's where I think if we talk about that collaboration, we talk about what we can do together, that's where I see us having the biggest impact and really embodies our partnership. There's other things that I think that we can do. You mentioned it in terms of just overall communication. There's a lot of great technology we've built. I think we could do better in terms of having people understand the power of AIM and how that could reduce risk. I think there's things that we can do in terms of there's API integrations that we've built and we can make available to our lenders that introduce new technology that make their lives easier. These are things that I think we as a group can do better in terms of our overall partnership. These are things that we can communicate better to our lenders. It's something that you and I talked about as we went into this session. We build a lot of great technology, but if no one knows about it, if we're not making sure that people understand how to use it, it's a little bit of a wasted effort. It's an intellectual mind game without an actual benefit. We want to benefit the lender. Regardless of where we stand in the market, I think we share that common goal of making the experience better for the lender. And then ultimately, that experience becomes better for the borrower.
I mean, and I back to that point, and you think about it as, I was actually shocked a few weeks ago. I did have a conversation with a lender, and I asked them, they brought up, it would be great if we had the ability to track which items we get rep and warrant relief on. And I said, oh my God, right? So back to your point, we released this. And so who's the target audience? And you and I had this conversation last week about maybe we look at Encompass admins as a target. When we release out certain content together, and if it's a Freddie Mac bulletin that's getting put out, is an Encompass admin reading that? Do they know what was made available? When you look at it and you say this level of communication, we've seen great success with the rep and warrant tracker. But if I were to tell you that, it's not in the screen set of some lenders out there, it leaves me to say, are we communicating the right way? When you think about, positive cash flow analysis and positive rent payment history support, you guys were immediately on board with how do we support this, leveraging AIM. And just to put this in perspective for everyone, these are not necessarily new things or new implementation of what you have to do. It's leveraging AIM and just submitting to LPA. And so is there a way we can create workflow that makes it easier to know somebody that you took a no to a yes in regards to approval because we're looking at their positive cash flow analysis. We're looking at what the rent payment history was by looking at existing tools. And one of the things that I think we try to do is minimize when we build a tool. our relationship is so important that we talk about the details of the message, how it gets delivered, how it gets delivered in screens. But as somebody who's spent time in a seat of building LOSs, POSs, and product and pricing engines, and I always look at it through the lens of, that level of communication. Are we building it for a reason that's going to drive an outcome for a consumer that a lender doesn't even think about all the time? And so where you can build these things in a way that it's simple, it's a base product initiative, but I have a custom or highly configured workflow in my application, I may be missing the rep and warrant tracker. I may be missing a certain piece of information that's going to be critical to eliminating steps. And everybody's aware of this in the current capacity, in the current environment, that every step is $1. And within every dollar, you have to invest it back into something, whether you know it or not, you're spending that money. And so I've heard some folks say we're gonna minimize our usage of AIM. We're going to no longer take advantage of automated ordering for a service through Encompass because we believe it increases price to our bottom line. And I think what we can tell you, and we have lenders, and we've seen the difference of best in class and worst in class, where we've done analysis and said, you know what, that $2,300 cost to originate study that we see a difference between, best in class and worst in class. For originators, that's done by leveraging these tools. That's not a number that we just looked up and said, how do we get to this? When we saw what we believe through LPA, where we have a date of application, we have the note date, the date it was delivered, and we see that there is a fundamental difference between lenders adopting a true digital mindset, that every step in the process, is it necessary? Is it needed? And we're not saying that you should ever be doing, remove part of your operation. This isn't, hey, remove underwriters. This is actually to focus on exception-based views. And that's where I just wanted to kind of get into it a little bit further, because this is where our conversations go on a day-to-day basis between Freddie Mac and ICE Mortgage Technologies. Is we're trying to think about the problems that you're thinking about. We're trying to think about them and solve them with you. And one of the cool things that we get to do is from my seat, I have responsibility of managing all of the relationships to our seller servicers on the market. But I also have the responsibility of working with all of the technology partners. And we brought those together very specifically because if you take somebody who is an LO, who's built technology like Christina Randolph, who oversees our partnership organization, and you feed that into a loop that helps solve problems into the seller organization, which all of you are, that's going to make such a big difference. Is we're not just solving problems with technology, we're solving business problems of mortgage as a business. And I think sometimes people forget that, is that we're here to actually help solve business problems to create a better origination process. So, I mean, as you know, I love it. I can't get enough of it. And this is why I've been spent, the large majority of the last 25 years kind of embedded in this whole thing.
Well, one of the things you said, I know we're running out of time here, but one of the things you said, I'll put a finer point on.
Please.
I think we both love the idea of building cool technology. But if we could build technology that solves the problem first, I think that's what differentiates this relationship, this partnership, is the idea of looking at a problem. And that's what you said. Look at a problem and then build technology. Just don't build technology for the sake of building technology. I've seen a lot of that over the years where really innovative people come to market with really cool technology that doesn't solve a core problem. You rattled off a number of different things that folks should be aware of. We could be a better partner with those lenders to make them aware of it. From the rep and warrant tracker, one of the ones you missed was which is a big one I just talked to a lender about, was the new appraisal options within that, and just understanding what that means to their business. That's huge. If we could solve real problems, it's going to provide relief to the market. It's going to make us a better partner to the market. And ultimately, it's going to drive the industry forward. Which is the shared goal of both ICE and Freddie Mac.
And I just want to thank you and thank everyone out there for your time. We hope you get to spend a lot of Freddie Mac Connect just looking at the different opportunities and different topics that we have to bring. I think the one thing I want you to walk away with more than anything is you're going to get a survey. If you don't get a chance to fill out the survey, you have a phone, pick up the phone. I want you to call us. I want you to call your account rep. I want you to call me. I want you to call Jonas. I want you to call your ICE. I want you to tell us what are the things that we can actually be doing that you don't think that we're focused on. The answer is maybe it's already there and maybe we haven't communicated the right way. And so you have our commitment to really making a difference for you. And I think we just want to thank you for your time, your partnership out there. And Jonas, thank you. It was a pleasure to have you with us today, and look forward to talking with you again later this week.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin and Jonas, for your time today. Attendees, your opinion is important. Please take a few moments to take our brief survey so that we can continue to bring you timely and relevant content. You can log in anytime after the conference to play back this or any other session. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.